Painting is language. As the years go on, you build up a dictionary. The more you're in the studio, the more you start remembering these different ways. You pick it up again quite quickly, and then you start remembering how to speak, how to paint. I grew up in Somerset and I moved back a couple of years ago and have been finding working in the countryside very peaceful. It's a very special place to be working and to be surrounded by nature like this. I find that that allows me to sort of enter these interior worlds and these quite quiet moments that require that peace. I'm in the midst of making my new body of work for my first American solo show with Timothy Taylor in Tribeca. My work is definitely focusing on the human condition and the complexities of relationships. My last solo show was in January 2022. In these 3.5 years, I have really felt the ruthlessness of time and life's conveyor belt. Sadly losing both my grandmothers in the space of the year, which was also the same year that I became a mother. To have been painting my whole life and then to be suddenly finding myself in this entirely different space. I do feel like paint has this, especially oil paint, has this very magical quality. Using oil paint, for me, is such a wonderful medium because when you get deep into the painting state where you're not thinking of anything in the outside world, often imagery emerges from the washes of the paint that feels like there's a sort of magic to the medium, and you'll be confronted with something that feels so relevant but was not intended. It's as if it comes from these sort of hidden subconscious areas in your brain, where then when you're looking at the image, you recognise what were very fleeting thoughts and very fleeting, almost imprints of a moment that then have been gently placed or gently sort of slip into, I guess it feels more like a slipping into the canvas. So this painting is still wet from the ground and it's got really thick, huge brushstrokes running across it. I stack many compositions until I find the composition that feels most relevant. But at the moment, I don't know where this painting's heading. And I quite like the idea of just reacting off different colours and different marks and feeling confident that it will lead me into a direction that then I take more control. My process varies though. I do find that I have got, within this body of work, pieces that are drawn from my old drawings. And the other painting, which I am painting on, is probably, looking at it, 3/4 of the way there, maybe a little bit more. You begin with these enormous brushstrokes, and by the end it's almost like a sculptor with a tiny little chisel. For me, it's a really small little brush that's just sort of delicately pushing different parts together. I think that the main aim of my paintings is to share a feeling or an emotion with someone else. It's where words fail us. The painting behind me, it's a very meaningful piece because it began in the usual way. And then as colour was building, I thought that it was about parenting, but then as the table was developing underneath, I noticed that it wasn't a table, it was a bed. And as the work was getting towards its finishing point was the same time that my Swiss grandmother had become unwell. And I stood back and I realised that I'd painted a scene that was about to happen a couple of months later. although they are drawn from these very significant, emotionally charged moments in my life, I want the figures to be read and felt from the viewpoint of other people's lives. And life and birth and death are things that we, at some point in life, inevitably experience.